Hey everybody, welcome back. So as you can see in today's video, I want to talk about why you don't have to worry about loneliness. Like being alone doesn't automatically mean that you're lonely. A lot of people will try to make you feel wrong for that, or at least people will place judgments on people who are alone because they make it seem like something's wrong with you, but nothing is wrong with you. I just want to say that because at least for me, I know my entire life I've had this overwhelming sense of dread, feeling insecure, low self-esteem, and just always feeling like I wasn't good enough. And when I really sat down and looked at things, a lot of things happened that I kind of gave that interpretation that I wasn't worthy, and I just had that assumption, but I never once really questioned it until I started reflecting and really trying to look at, well, why did I feel this way when the circumstances that happened in my life, there were some things that were painful to deal with, but when I look back, I never really had anything that really stood out significantly that told me outright I'm unworthy or I'm not good enough or I'm naturally lonely. Like nobody outright said those things to me. It was just the way that I've always felt. And I felt, I guess, having that as my identity is just something that you never really question. Only until I really decided that I wanted to have a change and no longer wanted to be run by my emotions did I really start reflecting on just who I wanted to be and at least how I wanted to navigate life. Even if nothing changed, I was just tired of feeling like overwhelmed, emotional all the time, reactive, just on edge, constantly feeling threatened, even when it wasn't anything there to be threatened by, but it was just my natural reaction to other people or situations, just feeling like I wasn't good enough, even when people weren't really doing anything to really say that. It was just how I naturally interpreted things. And that's the thing, when you have a certain identity, it's just your natural reaction to assume certain things about people or certain situations, and you don't even realize that you're filtering things through your own negative concepts or assumptions that you have about life. And I just want to give an example, like how this video is talking about being alone and not assuming that that means that you're uh, naturally lonely. Like if you have this point of view that you're lonely and you're kind of feeling like unworthy, not good enough, etc., think of it as glasses. So you're wearing your lonely glasses, and that's how you're filtering everything you see in life. So whether it's someone that you like, you'll naturally assume that they don't care about you, they don't have time for you, they don't give you the attention that you want, or you'll see them with other people and assume, well, they're treating them better than you, and you'll have all these negative assumptions when that same person, of course they like you, of course they have feelings for you, but they're just busy and they have other friendships, they have a social life, just regular stuff that to the normal person they wouldn't find as a red flag or something to feel threatened by. But someone with a lonely perspective is gonna feel jealous or uncomfortable and assume that that person having friendships means something's wrong with them or they're in competition with whoever they're friends with or something like that. So when you start to recognize that the way that you're feeling, it's not even anything to do with anything outside of you or anyone outside of you. It's your own interpretation. So since you're the one interpreting things that way, that means you have 100% control to interpret it in a new way and not see that from a lonely perspective. Filter it from a positive perspective. Even if you just say, well, you know what could be another reason instead of it meaning that I'm lonely or that I'm unworthy. Well, they could have friends and other stuff going on, and someone with a normal social life is going to have other people going on in their lives, and it doesn't mean that they're valuing anyone as more important than the other, but it's just naturally a balance of having healthy relationships. So when you take that into perspective and at least see the loneliness as a persona instead of something that's just your identity that you have to stick to, it can help you kind of dissociate from that so you no longer react from a lonely perspective, and you can be kind of neutral to kind of start helping yourself break out of that isolated, lonely feeling. And I think the biggest thing is just having a comparison, because if you didn't see any how anybody else was living their lives and you had nothing to compare your life to, you would never even think that the way you're going about life is an issue, because you got nothing to compare it to. And I feel like if your life is something that doesn't feel satisfying and fulfilling to you, you have the power to change that. And I think at least start by getting comfortable with who you are, because once you accept who you are wholeheartedly and unconditionally, that means even when you're alone, you can have a fun time. You know how to enjoy yourself genuinely without caring about what anybody else is doing, without caring about what anybody else's opinion of your lifestyle. I think the goal here is to really create a lifestyle that you love genuinely, whether anybody's around or not. Because if you can genuinely make yourself happy, then anybody who comes into your life, or even for the shortest length of time, will just be um, a bonus to add on to your life that's already spectacular. And that's something I kind of had to teach myself too, because I've been in that lonely phase for my entire life. It's just something that I've always felt, that felt like a sense of dread, like a weight of low self-esteem and never feeling good enough. And I realized that there were circumstances that happened that I feel like played a factor, but in general, it was just still a normal lifestyle where it shouldn't have had such a negative effect on me not feeling like I was ever good enough. So I think the hardest thing to overcome is just when you're used to having that identity and thinking that's who you are for so long, that persona is going to try to preserve itself and protect itself. So when you're trying to let go of that, you might feel like there's a struggle to let go of that negative mindset and jump into someone who's social and, just open-minded and just maybe a complete 180 of who you used to be. But it doesn't have to be hard. You kind of just have to prepare for the ways that you would naturally react and kind of come up with other ways to react, whether that be affirming to yourself positive statements and learning how to self-soothe yourself so that you can be able to overcome any type of resistance that you might have. Or honestly, even expecting resistance is kind of a limitation that we don't need to have, but obviously we don't have to be perfect about it. So you can still feel bad as you transition into whatever personality that you would like to have now. But I think the biggest thing is that, like I said, after having the awareness that you can be comfortable, confident, alone, or you could even be surrounded by millions of people and still feel alone. Like, I feel like the circumstances or people don't really make a difference, because there are people who have relationships and friends that feel lonely, and there are people who don't have that and feel lonely. So ultimately, it's your own perspective and how you deal with life and how you see life that is at the core of that loneliness. If you're allowing society's judgments to influence you feeling a certain way, or you deciding to, just keep to yourself, whether that's by choice or it's because you're insecure about yourself, you have to ultimately figure out what's the motivation behind that. Obviously, it feels great to have friends that value you, or partners, or just those connections with people. But when you're starting from scratch like me, you can't allow what you have or what you don't have right now to influence how you feel. Like, loneliness at the end of the day is a choice. It's a choice to see things from a perspective of being disconnected from people, or even disconnected from yourself. Because if you were unconditional about how you felt, that means you could be by yourself and be genuinely happy, at peace, comfortable, no matter what. And then when people did come into your life, it wouldn't be such a drastic, unnatural thing for you to experience. It would just make sense because you're naturally at peace with who you are, without the expectation or the reliance or the attachment to other people in order to fulfill you. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I learned, at least being in isolation for as long as I have been, is realizing that all the things that I was searching for, like love, fulfillment, happiness, peace, I had all of that within me, but I was thinking that I needed to change conditions or control things in my life in order to experience that. I was waiting for other people to show me that I was worthy or that I was enough before I would believe it. I was waiting for even myself to believe it. And anybody who feels insecure or doesn't feel good enough, you'll know that it feels nearly impossible to create those feelings for yourself, especially if you're coming from a place of depending on looking outside yourself for that validation. So the biggest thing that gives you the freedom is recognizing that happiness, peace, fulfillment, love, all of that stuff is unconditional. And when you learn to just choose those feelings for just the sake of choosing it. Sorry, my battery was about to die. I'm gonna have to like move a little bit, but hopefully I'm not messing up the angle. Okay, so when you realize that all of those things that you're looking for in situations and circumstances are available to you no matter what, that's when you get the freedom to just no longer feel like you have to react or wait for something to be different in order for you to allow yourself to be happy. And the funny thing is, once you recognize that, you allow your situations and circumstances to resolve themselves, or you allow more answers to come because you're no longer waiting for things to be different before you change. You have to change first on the inside to allow things to reflect that inner change. So I think I said a lot and I don't want to make it too long, but these are just some of the thoughts that I had, at least in dealing with feeling like I was alone, not realizing it was only my interpretation and how I saw myself that caused me to keep having a negative outlook or negative assumptions about other people and my ability to connect to them. Um, I'll probably do another video on this at some point, but I want to get this out there, get some feedback first, and then I'll see if anybody wants to hear more about this, or at least more insights on how I kind of overcame that, or at least just overcome this feeling of shame and guilt about not having those connections, and then allowing myself to see the changes in people as I let go of that resistance and just the judgments on myself. So, yeah, I think I said a lot, like I said before. So this is where I'm going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe leave some comments if it's something that you struggled with, or share it with someone that you might know is going through that, just to help them know you're not alone. And just because you don't have a lot of people around you doesn't mean that you have to allow yourself to feel bad about being alone. Allow it to be something positive. Get to know yourself. Know who you want to be. Become that person that has those flourishing connections and relationships. And I guarantee those people are already waiting for you to show up and just be your authentic self. That's all it takes to allow people to come to you. And it's something that's natural, so you don't have to force it. You don't have to perfect it. Just be yourself, and don't try to anticipate everything or try to plan things out, because you can kind of sabotage yourself by trying to have everything figured out. Just be present in the moment, be yourself, and that'll allow people to naturally gravitate towards you. Like, you literally don't even have to do anything. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for the next one.